Hey, what's going on, parents? Welcome back to Teenager Tuesday. My name is Will Perry. If we haven't got the chance to meet, would love to meet you. I'm the lead student pastor here at Hope, and we are starting a series, I believe for the next 4 weeks, where we're going to talk all about failure and how you as a parent can help guide your students through failure, because we know this. We've been around on planet Earth for long enough. Failure is inevitable. We're not going to be perfect. We're not going to do everything perfectly. Things aren't going to go well when we prepared like they should. And what can we do as parents as we navigate our middle schoolers and high schoolers through their perspective of failure, through when they fail, through their current successes that may end up being a failure down the road. What can we do with that? Well, to start, I do want to point you to a great resource called The Gift of Failure. The Gift of Failure by Jessica Lahey. It is a phenomenal book that talks so much about failure and why it can be a good thing. It is a helpful thing, and a thing that if we can't exclude it from our life, what can we do to make it the best part in our lives? Like, what can we do with it? And that'll make more sense here in a second. But I do want to read what she says in one paragraph in her book. It says, the setbacks, mistakes, miscalculations, and failures we have shoved out of our children's paths are the very experiences that teach them how to be resourceful, persistent, innovative, and resilient citizens of the world. A lot of her idea, kind of, I guess, rewording some of that, is saying, don't always protect your students from failure. Don't always cover for them. They have a school project and they're supposed to get this done. They needed these supplies, but they waited too long. And now, mom, dad, whoever, I need you to run to Walmart at 10:30 at night because I have to get this done tonight. A lot of what her book says is, and there's great parameters to this, and again, I would encourage you to read it, but a lot of what her book boils down to is let them fail and teach them along the way. Teach them beforehand, teach them during, and help them after. There's this idea of being unsuccessful in our day and age sometimes seems to say something about the kind of performer that you are, but being a failure seems to be more about the kind of person that you are. You know, you can fail at something, and that's your performance, but more often than not, people, middle school, high schooler, and then sometimes us adults, we don't say that we did something poorly. We say that we are a failure. We didn't fail at this project. We are a failure. And that failure tries to latch on to our identity. What kind of people are we growing our students into thinking that they are? What kind of people are we growing our students into thinking that they are? Are we unintentionally communicating failure in such a way that they then attach success or failure to their identity? There's this old sage wisdom that would tell us there's typically 2 responses that comes from failure. 1, it kills us, or 2, it makes us stronger. To use other words, in another way, it either defines us or it refines us. Does failure define who we are as a person, as a daughter of God, as a son of God? Do we say, my identity is tied, the definition of who I am is based off of my definition of success, and if I don't hit success, then that means I am a failure? Or are we raising students to let their shortcomings become part of this refining process? In the U.S., there's kind of, and this isn't original with me, I didn't make up this idea of these 3 mindsets, but there's typically 3 responses or 3 mindsets that we have to failure in America. One is this idea of failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. If you didn't know, this phrase really became famous because of an astronaut, Gene Kranz. He said these famous words with the Apollo 13 mission: failure is not an option. But somehow that kind of phrase then became this anthem for all people to just avoid failure at all cost. I can't fail. Failure is not an option. But if failure is not failure, if you just keep going forward, failure is not an option. It's just we can do it. And if we just try hard enough, we will not fail, which is not always the case. Maybe for a lot of ways it is, but it's not always the case to say failure is not an option. I really wanted to be a professional athlete, and I was like, if I just work hard enough, and it just wasn't in me. Like, failure was for sure, it wasn't even just an option, it was a destination for me when it came to athletics. Number two, recognize that failure is inevitable. Failure absolutely is inevitable. However, this effect can sometimes maybe minimize the importance of failure, or maybe minimize the impact of failure, or even maybe take the idea of failure and make it humorous, where it needs to be, yeah, it can be humorous, but it also needs to be a learning experience. We can't minimize it, but we can't minimize the importance, maybe the effects, the consequences that come from failure, but we also can't minimize the impact that can have. And also, like, yeah, it's really great to laugh at ourselves sometimes. I mean, that's why YouTube videos, if you search fail videos, there are millions and millions and millions of videos online that are fail videos, because it's funny to see also. Number three, failure leads to eventual success. Or maybe I should say failure always leads to eventual success. And we can take very successful people in America who maybe failed at something, and we can point to and say, like, Steve Jobs failed in this area. He didn't finish college. Albert Einstein failed in this area. Michael Jordan cut from the basketball team when he was a sophomore, which it's weird that they use the word cut, because he wasn't cut. He just was on JV, not varsity. But anyways, we can take these very famous stories and say, if I fail, that just means it's on my way to success. What happens at the end of that if the drawbacks are so minimized that when a student gets down the road and they see, like, oh, I'm never going to succeed in this area. Oh, this isn't how I'm created. Oh, I thought it was going to be this, like, famous singer, actor, whatever it is. Like, what if at the end of the road, that isn't what God has for them, isn't what God has for us? Like, there are times that we just have to be careful demonizing failure. We have to be careful humanizing failure. Humorizing, making it just a joke. And there are times that we have to be careful to just trivializing failure. All of those things we just have to be cautious with. In future weeks, I'm going to do more definition of failure. I'm going to do more talking about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha that's coming up, what research shows, what research says they're afraid of, what we can do as parents to help them along the way with that. But to kind of end today, I want to give us some homework for the week, just very simple observations for yourself to answer the questions first, and then maybe to then talk with your students about two, to say, hey, where would you fall out of these three things? Here's a question. Of the three, which do I tend to do with failure? What is my go-to? What's my typical response to failure? Is it to demonize it, which is the idea of avoid it at all costs? Pain, like, let me just avoid some pain. It may take a little bit of pain to get to success, but you can avoid it at all costs. Do we demonize failure? Do we humorize failure? Do we just make it a joke to try to make it sting less? Is that coping with it? Or is that, without actually saying, like, the reality of what that failure could mean for our lives? And do we trivialize? So demonize, humorize, trivialize. Trivialize, kind of hard to say, is also just making it a smaller deal than it actually was. Out of those three, what is it that you tend to do? Ask your student the same. And next week, we'll be back with part 2. For now, signing off. You can do this, parents. You're not alone. God is with you, and so are we. Have a great week.